North Korea is the most sanctioned nation on Earth. Its state airline, Air Koryo, is still flying aircraft that were built before the first moon landing. One of them, an Ilyushin Il-18 registered P835, rolled off a Soviet production line in February 1969. It was certified for 40,000 flight hours. 56 years later, it is still carrying passengers. It is the last Il-18 in commercial service anywhere in the world. Sanctions did not ground this fleet. They did something slower. They made it illegal for anyone to help keep it flying, and then watched to see what would happen. Air Koryo operates 15 aircraft. Most were built before 1990, and the newest arrived in 2015. Nothing has been added since. Nothing can be. The airline's own insurer has been sanctioned, and there's no legal safety net left. These jets were designed to operate inside a support system that no longer exists. What that system was and how it disappeared explains why these aircraft should not still be airworthy. But they are. Somehow. And 3 times a week, one of them lands in Beijing with passengers on board. By every measure, this fleet should be grounded. It is not. So either the sanctions have failed, or Air Koryo has found a way to keep aircraft in the sky that the rest of the world never anticipated. Forget the politics. This is an engineering problem, and it begins with understanding how this airline was built and what it was designed to depend on. During the Cold War, North Korea was a client state of Moscow. Its economy and military were built on Soviet support. So was its aviation. When Pyongyang needed aircraft, there was only one place to go. Western manufacturers were politically hostile and financially unreachable. Soviet aircraft were the only option. Not a failure of planning, just the reality of alignment. So Air Koryo built its fleet around what Moscow could provide. The Ilyushin Il-62 arrived in 1979. A long-range quad jet capable of flying Pyongyang to Moscow without stopping. For the first time, a North Korean aircraft could make that journey non-stop. The Tupolev Tu-154 came earlier in 1975, a medium-range tri-jet that opened routes to Eastern Europe. Think Prague, East Berlin and Sofia. Smaller aircraft, the AN-24 turboprop, and the IL-18 handled regional routes and domestic flights to remote airfields. An airline does not just operate aircraft, it operates inside a system that keeps aircraft flying. Engines need overhauls, components wear out, pilots need training, fuel needs to meet specifications. For Air Koryo, all of this came from the Soviet network. Major overhauls were performed at Soviet facilities. Spare parts came through centralized socialist distribution. Pilots trained at Aeroflot academies. The fuel matched Soviet standards because everyone in the bloc used the same fuel. This was not just an airline. It was a node in a system designed to keep Soviet aircraft flying anywhere in the socialist world. And for decades, it worked. Air Koryo expanded. It flew to Europe, to Southeast Asia, to the Middle East. The fleet grew and the routes multiplied. Then in 2007 and 2010, something unusual happened. Air Koryo somehow acquired 2 modern Tu-204 jets. Russian-built aircraft far newer than anything else in the fleet. These should have been impossible to obtain, and how they got them reveals exactly how desperate the situation had already become. But that comes later. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The parts kept coming for a while, then they didn't. For a few years after the Soviet Union fell apart, the support network held together. Russia still had the factories, the parts still existed, old agreements carried over, and Air Koryo kept flying. But it was no longer a partnership. It was completely transactional, and North Korea was running out of things to offer. Then came October 2006. North Korea tested a nuclear weapon, and the international response was swift. The UN passed Resolution 1718. Officially, it targeted weapons programs, but the ripple effects went wider. A deal that had been quietly forming with Ilyushin Finance, new IL-96 widebodies, more Tu-204s, fell apart. South Korea took the view that the resolution meant no one should help North Korea renew its airline fleet. The modernization window was closing. That same year, the European Union banned Air Koryo from its airspace. Safety concerns, they said. Serious deficiencies, inadequate oversight. Whether the timing was coincidental or not, the effect was the same. North Korea's airline could no longer reach Europe. And then, somehow, a brand new Tu-204-300 landed in Pyongyang. December 2007, and in March 2010, a second one arrived. Modern aircraft, fuel efficient, capable of meeting Western standards. Under the circumstances, these should have been impossible to get. The second one, P633, had a past. It was not factory fresh. It had previously flown for a Russian airline called Red Wings, registered under RA 64048. Somehow it ended up in Pyongyang, rerouted through an intermediary company that existed largely on paper. This was not a normal procurement. This was smuggling with a paper trail. The EU responded in a peculiar way. They lifted the ban, but only for those 2 aircraft. The Tu-204s could fly to Europe. The rest of the fleet remained blacklisted. Same airlines, same pilots, same maintenance hangars, different rules. By 2016 and 2017, UN resolutions closed the last loopholes. Resolution 2270 banned aviation fuel exports outright. Resolution 2397 went further. No aircraft sales, no parts. The only exception were spares deemed necessary for safety, and even those required case-by-case approval. Around this time, 2 more Tu-204s were being prepared for Air Koryo. They were painted in livery, ready for delivery, but they never arrived, and where they ended up is worth coming back to. By now, every strand of the original support system had been cut. No manufacturer was willing to help, no authorized parts pipeline, no maintenance network, no international insurance. Air Koryo's own insurer, a state outfit called KNIC, had itself been sanctioned by the US Treasury. That safety net was gone, sanctioned out of existence. And yet, and this is the strange part, North Korea is still a member of ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization. It is still bound by Annex 8, which governs airworthiness. To fly internationally, an aircraft needs a certificate of airworthiness. Someone at North Korea's Civil Aviation Administration has to sign that certificate. They are attesting in writing that the aircraft meets international standards. That signature exists. The parts it assumes do not. By 2018, the question had changed. It was no longer whether Air Koryo could function as a normal airline. It could not. The question was simpler and stranger. How were these aircraft still in the air at all? Now, the answer is not mysterious. It is completely mechanical. When you cannot buy parts, you find them somewhere else. For Air Koryo, somewhere else means other aircraft. Air Koryo once operated 2 Ilyushin IL-18s. The one mentioned at the start, P-835, built in 1969, is still flying. Its sister ship, P-836, is not. It was withdrawn from service around 2012. By 2015, it had likely been scrapped. Not retired, completely consumed. Its usable components, instruments, hydraulics, wiring, whatever could be salvaged, went into P-835. Air Koryo once had 4 Tupolev Tu-154s. P-551 was retired in 2010, brought back in 2013, then stored again in 2019. A temporary resurrection, probably to harvest a few more parts. P-553 ended up at an aviation training institute, and the other 2, P-552 and P-561, are still flying. Every Tu-154 in the air today exists only because others were sacrificed to keep it there. For the parts that cannot be scavenged, seals, gaskets, filters, and small components that wear out fastest, North Korea manufactures them domestically. Reverse engineered from samples, machined in local workshops, no OEM certification, no quality guarantee, and no way to know whether a locally made gasket will perform like the original or fail under pressure. Every aircraft component has a certified lifespan, a number of flight hours or cycles after which it must be replaced. Under normal circumstances, you replace it. Under these circumstances, you inspect it. If it looks acceptable, you extend the limit. You keep flying until something is visibly wrong. Then you find a replacement from whichever donor frame still has one. The pilots who fly these aircraft are not civilians weighing up the risk. They are military officers. Every Air Koryo captain holds a rank in the Korean People's Army Air Force. They do not choose their assignments, they follow orders. And the decision to fly a 56-year-old aircraft on a passenger route is not made in a cockpit. It is made somewhere else entirely. What happens when the last donor airframe is consumed? When there's nothing left to strip? When the pool hits zero? For now though, the aircraft keep flying and there are other constraints pressing in. ones that have nothing to do with parts at all. In 2011, Air Koryo flew to Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, Kuwait City, and a handful of other international destinations. Today, 3 routes remain: Beijing, Shenyang, and Vladivostok. The rest disappeared after 2016 and 2017. Thailand closed its airspace, Malaysia followed, then Kuwait. Pakistan, which had served as a refueling stop, shut its doors entirely. One by one, the whole network collapsed. And yet China, a permanent member of the UN Security Council, a country that voted for every sanction resolution against North Korea, still accepts Air Koryo flights 3 times a week. The resolutions call on member states to deny landing rights. Beijing doesn't bother. Beijing keeps this airline alive. By choice, a totalitarian regime that lectures the West on respecting sovereignty while propping up a pariah state's flag carrier because it suits them. Remember the 2 Tu-204s that were being prepared for Air Koryo? The ones that never arrived? They are sitting at Zhukovsky Airport outside Moscow right now, painted in Air Koryo livery, ready for delivery. They have been re-registered to something called Sky KG Airlines, a Kyrgyz shell company, but everyone knows where they were supposed to go. UNSCR 2397 blocked the transfer. North Korea has reportedly been trying to complete the deal for years. The aircraft remain parked on Russian soil, visual proof of what sanctions actually prevent. Russia presents its own contradiction. Russia is legally prohibited from supplying aircraft or parts to North Korea. The 2 North Korean aircraft are parked in Russia. Russian airlines have resumed flights to Pyongyang. The prohibition is clear. The enforcement is not. The Soloviev D-30 is a Soviet turbofan that powers 3 different aircraft types in the Air Koryo fleet. The IL-62 long-range jet, the Tu-134 regional jet, and the IL-76 cargo plane. Many components are interchangeable across the variants. In a normal airline, that would be an advantage: common parts and simplified logistics. But for Air Koryo, it means something else. When they cannibalize one aircraft type, for D-30 parts, the shortage cascades. The problem in the cargo fleet can ground the VIP transport. The shared engine was supposed to make things easier, but under sanctions, it connects failures across the whole fleet. Other sanctioned nations found workarounds. Iran has domestic factories that can produce aircraft components. It flies a mix of Boeing, Airbus, and Russian aircraft. When one supply chain closes, another might open. Russia builds entire aircraft at home. Both have black market networks that have been operating for decades. On July 22, 2016, Air Koryo flight JS-151 made an emergency landing at Shenyang. Smoke in the cabin, oxygen masks deployed. Passengers down the slides onto the tarmac. Chinese authorities inspected the aircraft, and their conclusion? Well, nothing was abnormal. Apparently, smoke and emergency evacuations don't count. The question is when the engineering reaches it. The fleet is not shrinking because aircraft are retired. It is shrinking because aircraft are consumed. And Air Koryo has already begun preparing for what comes next. The airline now operates petrol stations. It sells canned goods. It runs taxis. None of this is growth. It is a fallback, a state enterprise hedging against a future where its aircraft no longer leave the ground. There's a line, invisible, unmarked, where regulation stops protecting safety and starts protecting politics. Air Koryo crossed that line years ago. What remains is not an airline meeting international standards. It's a system running on momentum workarounds and the tolerance of a few neighboring states willing to look away. Don't blame ideology and don't blame incontinence. Blame their maths. Air Koryo is approaching a point where the arithmetic of maintenance no longer works. It completely stops. Or it doesn't, because this was never just about physics. It was always about Beijing. If Air Koryo is still flying a decade from now, it won't be because Pyongyang worked miracles. It'll be because Beijing decided, again, that the rules don't apply for them. For the Sky Digest, I'm Jan. Do book your Air Koryo tickets early. I hear the frequent flyer program is to die for. Cheers.